Yes, all right. Sheri Goldberg, who uses the pronouns he, her. This is Sheri's first time as a featured teller at DCSS. Sheri is a longtime thespian, but fairly new to storytelling and the New Mexico Storytellers. She's been in Albuquerque for 18 months after immigrating is in quotation marks, I want to let you guys know that, from California. An ex-police officer and semi-retired teacher, she has had various adventures in many places around the globe and is very enthusiastic about sharing the resulting stories about them with us all. Everybody, please put your hands together for the wonderful Sheri Goldberg. Come on up, Sheri.
Thank you, Marvin. So, if you happen to have been here a few months ago when it was actually freezing cold, if you can imagine that now, I told my first story here, which was about my brother, the bank robber. Does anyone remember that? Yes! Okay, well, I'm happy to say he's a reformed bank robber. It's now many, many years later. However unbelievable that story was, I have my own unbelievable story that is connected with that, because here's the thing. This was in the 80s, and I just loved the irony of the fact that since I had a brother that was a bank robber, that I would become a police officer myself. So that's what I decided to do, but not just because of the wonderful irony of it, but also because I am a feminist, and I'm a challenger of convention, and I am setting out to tell the world that women can do anything and everything that any man can ever do, and sometimes even better. Right? Some people may not believe, but it is true. So, the year is 1984, and I have been hired by the Seattle Police Department in spite of overcoming unbelievable challenges and odds, not just against women, but against the fact that I'm a petite woman, and some of the physical challenges in particular were really, really tough, like running this obstacle course, jumping over a 6-foot wall, which took probably 120 attempts before I succeeded. But I did succeed, and now I'm in the police academy, and I'm having a pretty grand time, in spite of the fact that I am one of 3 women and 20 men in my academy class. And most of them, pretty much almost all of them, really didn't think that women belonged in police work. Because after all, it's a quasi-military organization. It is very traditionally male-oriented, a good old boys club, and they looked upon us 3 like, what the heck are you doing here? So again, we had to prove them wrong. So, by the way, the instructors had the same attitude and had no bones about letting us know that they didn't think that we should be there. And that had the effect of just making me angry and more determined. So, it's the last week of the academy. I've made it through months of rigorous training, and this is actually the hardest phase yet, because the last week is the week at the firing range, and we had to learn to shoot. And not only that, there was a very, very challenging test at the very end, in which we had to fire off 18 rounds. And by the way, in more modern times, police generally carry a semi-automatic, which is a really relatively easy weapon to not only fire but reload. But this is the 80s, and we carried what were called police specials, 38 specials that were revolvers. Now, the challenge of the revolver is that you only have 6 rounds, and when it's time to reload, you have to use this thing, this obnoxious little device called a speed loader. And somebody's nodding over there. You're experienced shooting. The speed loader is the misnomer of the century. And it is my nemesis because it's not speedy. You have these 6 bullets in the chamber. And by the way, when you're a cadet in an academy, you don't get a real bullet. You get something called a wad cutter, which is maybe 40% less power than a normal bullet. But I tell you something, it can still, for sure, be lethal. So the speed loader has 6 of these wad cutters in it, and you have to position it just so over the barrel of the gun. But those silly little things, they jiggle around. So in order to get them into the chambers, you have to line them up just perfectly. And it's really, really difficult. So every time I'd get there and I was trying to do it so fast because it has to be fast, and my hand would be shaking and I couldn't get those things lined up, and I'd eventually get them in, but then they'd call time, and I was out of time. And I wasn't gonna make it. So it's now Thursday, and the test, the final exam, is tomorrow, Friday. Now, the sergeant at the range, he was the misogynist of the millennia. This man really hated the idea of women police officers. And he particularly hated me because I was very outspoken. And the other women were kind of meek and mousy, and you really kind of didn't notice they were there, but you really noticed me. So he came up to me on Thursday and he said, Officer Goldberg, almost Officer Goldberg, but not really. You know, if you fail this exam, not only are you going to wind up being held back and having to start all over in the subsequent academy class, but you'll probably never make it as a police officer. In fact, I really doubt that you will ever be an actual police officer. And he says this with a sneer on his face, and he walks away. So again, I have to prove him wrong. So I did something that was strictly verboten, and that is, at the end of the day, I took 6 of those little wad cutters and looking around very furtively, I slipped them into my pocket. Because here's the thing, we were not allowed to carry any ammo until we were sworn police officers. Absolutely forbidden, but I did it. And I really didn't have any trepidation about it because I knew it was necessary. So I go home. Now, home is in this house with my roommate Stanley. And it's Stanley's house. And Stanley, when he knew I was going to become a police officer, made me swear up and down I would never, ever, ever, ever have a loaded gun in his house. And I said, absolutely not, Stanley. Never, never, never. And by the way, it's required as a police officer, you have to carry a weapon with you at all times. I would say it has to be loaded in your home. It doesn't. But I had to have it with me, which I told him. So I get home. Thank God, Stanley's not home. So I go into the living room, and I take a black t-shirt and I put a little circle with masking tape and I stick it up on the little living room wall, and I take out my revolver and I start practicing. And the main thing was I needed to get the timing down, and I needed to get the aiming down, and I needed to get that darn little speed loader thing working for me. So I was practicing. I'd plop them into the chamber, and then I'd eject them back out, and I would do something called dry firing, which is aiming and shooting, but blank, nothing's there. It's just an empty chamber. Click, 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 6 times. Same thing all over again. And my timing is getting better, and I'm getting faster, and I'm getting more confident, and I'm almost done, and I'm ejecting the bullets out, and I lift up the gun, and I'm aiming at this shirt on the wall, and I hear BLAM! Oh my God, what just happened? The noise was deafening, and the acrid smell of the gunpowder is burning my nostrils. It was so loud, I simply couldn't believe it. I'm standing there in shock, and what I realized was one of those bullets did not exit the chamber when I ejected it onto the floor. It got stuck in the chamber, and I had just fired a gun in the house. And I'm horrified, and I'm terrified. And my next thought is, are there sirens coming? Someone probably heard a gunshot and is calling the police. And they come, and there goes my police career, and Stanley will throw me out of my ear, and I'll probably go to jail, because after all, this is like reckless endangerment. So I'm really, really, really scared, and I'm pretty hysterical, and I'm thinking, how do I cover this up so Stanley never knows? So I'm thinking, okay, white wall, kind of off-white, sort of dirty, soap. I'll get soap. And there's a little tiny hole where the bullet went through the hole, went through the wall. So I get some soap and I patch it up, and it looks pretty good, and Stanley will never notice. You have to look really close to the wall. But then I go around the other side where the kitchen is, and there's a bookcase with all these cookbooks against the wall. And so that wasn't too difficult. There was a hole through the bookcase. Yes, there was. So I just rearranged the books a little bit. The biggest problem was that opposite the bookcase is a window. And there's a hole in the window that's this big. Yeah, because it was slowing down. It had already gone through a wall and a bookcase. And the slower a bullet goes, the bigger hole it makes in a window. So it's this big. And my next thought is, did I hit somebody in the yard outside? Oh my God, but there was nobody out there. So I'm thinking, thank God, but where did it go? And I look really carefully and I notice a little teeny tiny hole under the eave of the house that's just down below us. Oh, thank God it went into the attic. I'm safe there. Meanwhile, I'm still listening for a siren. Still thinking someone would have called the police and reported this, but nothing. No one came. So oh, thank God. Okay, I'm going to bed. But as I'm trundling up to bed, I'm thinking, well, what am I going to tell Stanley? Okay, I've got to figure this out. 0 minutes left. Oh my God. Okay, so, feels like it goes really fast. Anyway, next morning, Stanley's at the breakfast table, and we'll speed up, just like the speed loader needs to speed up. And Stanley says, there's a hole in the window. And I said, yes, Stanley. And he said, what on earth happened? And I said, someone threw a rock through the window, Stanley. I found it last night. And he says, really? Yes. Where's the rock? Oh, I threw it back outside. It wouldn't be evidence. Can't get fingerprints off a rock. And so I said, wow. And he's quiet for a moment, and he looks again, and he says, kind of looks like a bullet hole. A bullet hole? Stanley, no. What are you, ridiculous? A bullet hole, first of all, would be only that big, and it would have the webbing of the cracks going this way and that, because we just learned that in our forensics class yesterday. Oh, Stanley, besides which, I found the rock. So he's quiet for another moment. He sighs and says, well, okay, I'll contact the landlord and get them to come replace the window. He's like, oh my God, I went weak in the knees. I was so relieved. Okay, gotta get to the academy. Bye, Stanley. And I go rushing out the door. Thanking God so far. I've been lucky. But I still have this test to pass. So I get to the range. I make it there just in time for them to start the final test. And we've got the 90 seconds. And I'm firing and I'm reloading and I'm firing and I'm reloading and bling, time. Did I make it? And I hear the sergeant walking over like, and he stops in front of me. He says, well, Goldberg, 88 seconds out of 90, you passed. Thank you. But I still don't think you should be a police officer. However, I did get sworn in, I did become a police officer, and I was a damn fine police officer, I do say so myself, and I paved the way for all the women who wanted to follow in my footsteps. Yes! Thank you.
Give it up for Sheri, everybody, yes. I think we all got a little chorus and how to